Hi everybody, welcome back. Thank you for joining me for another royal news video, or at the moment it feels like a Harry and Meghan video, just for the simple fact they are absolutely everywhere. But today, bless them, they should have a video dedicated to them because today is their big day. It's the anniversary of South Park's worldwide privacy tour. And on cue, when we had the images of Harry and Meghan in their private jet going around the world asking for privacy, their private jet has just landed in Canada for the training camp for the Invictus Games. In one of the funniest episodes of South Park I've personally ever seen, Harry and Meghan were referred to as the Prince and Princess of Canada. Now this seems to have somewhat gone to their heads because the new CEO of the Invictus Games had to ask staff, Harry and Meghan's team, what to call them because they are not allowed to be called His or Her Royal Highness. So do you know what he was instructed to call them? Sir and Ma'am. Right? So for those of you that don't know this, you call the king sir. And before him, when his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, she was ma'am. On the first greeting of the monarch, you say your majesty, and then on thereafter, you can say sir or ma'am. So Harry and Meghan have instructed the Invictus CEO to refer to them as if they are the king and queen. Whatever happened to just call me Harry and Meghan saying she didn't want to be ranked, she wanted to be linked? You know, they made it very clear that they did not like the status of being part of the archaic institute that was the monarchy and the royal family. But here they are instructing their staff to tell people to refer to them as sir and ma'am. The levels of arrogance that seep through the pores of these two is truly legendary. But then again, what can we expect from Meghan, who proclaims herself as a feminist at every opportunity, but hangs off her husband's title like a barnacle? Now, the couple have definitely had a mixed welcome, shall we say, from the few people that are actually there. They haven't got hundreds of thousands of people queuing up and screaming their names. In fact, you have got a combination of some people not clapping or saying anything, some cheers, of course, but also mixed in with some boos, which I actually find rather delicious. Meghan, wanting to hear the cheers and pose for photographs, wound down her window just as she did when they came over for the Platinum Jubilee. The security-conscious couple wind down their bulletproof windows. Which begs the question, who's paying for their security whilst they're in Canada? I'm pretty certain it won't just be Harry and Meghan coughing up out of their back pockets. Are Invictus paying? Or worse, are the Canadian taxpayers having to pay because Justin Trudeau has decided to grant special security services for his friends? Now, it should come as no shock that the private jet that they did come over all the way from Santa Barbara in, it looks like the tab is in fact being picked up by the Invictus Games. No shocker, but what is shocking, the Invictus Games is supposed to be supporting the veterans. All the donations and the fundraising is supposed to go towards the rehabilitation and counselling and all sorts of different services for veterans and their families. This particular private jet cost round about $60,000 for a round trip, according to what I've read. So can you imagine how many services and rehabilitations, prosthetic limbs, and all the various other services that could be provided to veterans for that amount of money? The Invictus Games really needs to start clarifying how much money that they are spending on their so-called founder, or rather should I say, one of their founders. But who cares about the veterans, right? The Invictus Games isn't about the veterans anymore. It's the Meghan Markle show. And don't you forget it, because she's certainly not letting the cameraman forget as she taps him as she walks past. In fact, this photograph sums up the entire attitude, I think, of Meghan going to these games. It's very much her show. You've got the Invictus Games guys behind with the Invictus Games merchandise blurred out. Then you've got her man bag following, sorry, I meant her husband, and then Meghan front and centre. Harry was running to try and keep up with his wife as she quick marched out to greet the waiting Invictus representatives. After Harry finally caught up with his wife, it did look very similar to how we saw Harry chasing after Meghan's hand when he was in South Africa. Meghan actually had to stop and retrain Harry. Harry had dared to grasp the hand and give a handshake to one of the Invictus Games officials. But whilst he was mid-shake, Meghan decided she was having absolutely none of that, shoved Harry out the way and goes in for a full body contact breast to pelvis hug as he was still connected and shaking hands. I don't know if Harry at this point looks downtrodden or dejected, or he's looking at Meghan's footwork, actually wondering how did she manage to do that? In a nutshell, this completely sums up Harry and Meghan's relationship. Harry is little more than second place. Harry said that he left the royal family because he didn't want to be in his brother's shadow. Well, he is very much now in his wife's shadow, whether he likes it or not. Now, Invictus Games is the only positive thing left that Harry has. It's the only thing that is still actually something that people watch, people respect, and people admire. But it's not because of this couple, it's because of the veterans. Everybody loves veterans all around the world. They have a lot of love, a lot of respect, and a lot of support. But the big problem is Meghan is turning it into her own personal catwalk show, and Harry is completely happy with this, as are the Invictus organisers. At this point, you have to question them. But then saying that, the last time a couple of Invictus organisers dared to question Harry and Meghan's input into the games, when a whistleblower came forward and said that Harry and Meghan's drama with the royal family has started to completely overshadow the veterans, and they expressed concerns that Harry and Meghan's security costs plus their other expenses, which is hotel flights, accommodations, are going to continue to take chunks out of the finances for the Invictus Games. These two executives that dared reared their head, well, they suddenly found themselves reshuffled. To the rest of us, that means that they were displaced, sacked, let go. Now, Harry was reportedly trying to secure a big TV deal for the Games and has employed a top TV executive who has overseen the Olympics and the World Cup. Sorry, but, well, actually, I'm not sorry, I'm going to say it anyway. I feel that the Invictus Games signing up to any sort of big TV deal was more about Harry and Meghan lining their pockets rather than trying to line the pockets of the Invictus Games, who recently have had a handout from the Canadian government to the tune of $30 million, which with obviously a lot of the new sports, it's going to cost a lot more money to set up across Vancouver and Whistler, which is to be held in 2025. But a big question I have got again with this TV deal that they're trying to do, who is their audience? Who are they trying to get the Invictus Games to appeal to? Because if it's an American audience, it's going to fall flat. Not because they don't care about veterans, but because they've got the Warrior Games, which was the blueprint for the Invictus Games. And it's run by the Department of Defence. And they're very clear that the donations and all of the money raised for the Warrior Games goes to the veterans and not to ex-royals' wardrobe, accommodation, and first-class travel budgets. Harry and Meghan have used the Invictus Games before, obviously when the Heart of Invictus documentary came out. Harry and Meghan added that in as part of their multi-million-pound deal with Netflix. Yes, Netflix said that it would rightfully compensate the Invictus Games, but it's still not been brought to light how much they deem their compensation worth, or if they have even yet paid it to the Invictus Games. It's a bit like when Meghan did the Disney voiceover, the £3 million for the elephants. That all went quiet, and I don't think anyone's actually truly clarified, including the charity it was meant to go to, that they ever received those funds. Then, of course, you've got the big fact that Harry and Meghan have done no fundraising whatsoever for the Invictus Games. Look at Prince William Earthshot Prize. In the last 9 months, he's managed to pull together, with all of the investments and the interest and the promotions that he's done, £22.5 million. Harry and Meghan have done absolutely zip for the Invictus Games. And in fact, I will bring this up for the newbies, and that is the Invictus Games was going to have a huge Super Bowl style fundraiser, right? They were going to have big names signing up to it. This is when Harry and Meghan first moved to America and they still had a bit of popularity behind them. But this was subsequently cancelled when Harry and Meghan signed up to Netflix, because the people that were going to do the big TV fundraiser were Amazon. Netflix rivals. Now, of course, Harry and Meghan clapped back straight away and said, actually, we've only cancelled it due to the pandemic, due to restrictions. But if that was true, why did they never pick it up when the restrictions were lifted? Lots of people that had to cancel their concerts as soon as they could, they held them, and some people did virtual ones. But no, Harry and Meghan completely cancelled it in its entirety, and my gut is telling me that it is purely because they signed with Amazon's rivals, Netflix. Harry and Meghan never sued any other media outlet that actually pushed that story out there and said it's because of their Netflix contract. That's why they've done it. They sent legal letters threatening, but it never came to fruition. So that, to me, if they're not suing, it means it's probably true. Now, in some more Invictus news, Harry is going to be darkening the UK shores to do with the Invictus Games, and very soon as May, because it is the 10-year anniversary from when the Invictus Games was created by the Royal Foundation of Princes William, the Duchess of Cambridge, and Prince Harry. And another thing that Harry likes to wash over, other than the fact that he wasn't the only founder, was the fact that Prince William and Catherine gave £500,000 from the Royal Foundation to prop up the Invictus Games. In fact, because of their lovely donation, the Invictus Games had its highest ever turnover that year. And the donation was from the phone hacking scandal that Catherine and William had their phones hacked. I think it was like 120 times each. It was really horrific what actually happened to those two. This goes back to the Levinson inquiry. Do you think Harry's donating all of his money to charity that he's won from the recent mirror cases? I highly doubt it. Also, given the fact that Harry's won, I think it was 140,000, then he's to be awarded another 300,000, but he has to pay the Daily Mail 750,000. So as you can see, he's not even breaking even. But the point is, William and Catherine have actually done more to support the Invictus Games than Harry has financially. Now, as for the service to be held at St Paul's Cathedral, we all know what happened when Harry and Meghan attended there last time. They got booed incredibly loudly. But this brings me to the next conundrum. Will Meghan be stepping foot in the country ever again? She has sworn, and all of her sources have said, never again shall she darken our shores, much to the cheers and the applause of many a Brit, I can tell you. But what's she going to do? She can't be front and centre of the Invictus Games. And in 2027, rather interestingly, the British government has actually bid for the next Invictus Games. It might be a case that 2027 is the year that the Invictus Games get saved from Meghan Markle. Yes, the UK government, with the support of the Department of Defence and the British Legion, have put in a bid to have the Invictus Games held in the UK in Birmingham. And Harry, reportedly, is more than happy for the Games to come back to where it all started. But rather interestingly, the source close to the Games has put out a statement with this story and said that they understand that the Invictus Games has always had the support of the royal family. And I thought to myself, well, that's a bit of a bold statement, given the fact that Harry has claimed the Invictus Games as his, or rather Meghan as hers. They've turned it into their own personal cash cow over the last few years by saying that the royal family supports it. Are they then trying to back the royal family into a corner? So then if members of the royal family do not come, they can turn around and say, oh, the royals are being petty, they've turned their back on the military, they've turned their back on the veterans. It's a way to kind of bash the royal family, who are the ones that actually support our veterans properly, and obviously with all of the armed forces. It's a way for Harry and Meghan to yet again try and weaponise the Invictus Games to attack the royals. They've done it before. They started saying that it's wrong that Catherine and William have turned their backs on the game. And as I said, they've actually done more over the years to support the Invictus Games than what Harry and Meghan ever have done. Now, the fact that the Department of Defence have actually backed this and they said, yes, we'd love it to come back to the UK. I think if the Invictus Games is going to be a success and continue to grow, then they need to get it away from Meghan's claws. The fact is that for the last few years, Meghan has turned it into her very own fashion show. We've seen it over the last 24 hours. She is not going to stop. And the longer that they allow Meghan to make a spectacle of herself and make it all about her, then the more people are going to lose interest in tuning into the games. And then, of course, they will continue to lose sponsorships. So guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this segment of the video because this is officially going to be a two-parter. I am going to get this video out to you and then I'm going to work on the second part because I don't know if you know, but these videos can take me anywhere from 10 and 20 hours. And I want to get this out on the anniversary of the Worldwide Privacy Tour. Who knows? I might actually spend a little bit of time and rewatch it just for some giggles. But the next part of the video, come back and join me for part 2 of The Only Way is Sussex. And I will be discussing the fact that Harry and Meghan are weaponising the children as a way to keep hold of that dukedom. So I hope to see you very, very soon. Take care for now. Bye.